Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Workplace Peace Institute's Leadership Academy webinar on mindfulness in the workplace. This webinar is a part of the New Paradigm Leadership Educational Series. We present a webinar almost every month, with the exception of August, November, and December. So we're really excited to see you today. So happy that you have joined us. I'm really thrilled to invite you to meet my dear friend and colleague, Outi Hilgert. Dr. Hilgert brings 25 years of experience in integrative medicine to her mindfulness holistic medicine practice. Dr. Hilgert is a mindfulness-based stress reduction and mindfulness-based cognitive therapy trainer. Dr. Hilgert also has expertise in developing trauma-informed mindfulness and compassion-based interventions in medicine and society. She's particularly interested in promoting mindfulness meditation, stress management, emotional intelligence, and self-regulation skills in preventing and treating mental and physical diseases. I am also very pleased and proud that she is an instructor for the Workplace Peace Institute Leadership Academy, where she teaches the Mindful Leader course. This is an evidence-based, she brings evidence-based theory, her own personal work, and her deep experience in leading people with mindfulness and wise compassion. She has been pioneering mindfulness in leadership and in medicine for the last almost 3 decades. And it is just a tremendous honor to have her here with us and for all of you to have the opportunity to learn from us. To learn from her. I believe that mindfulness is one of the most underdeveloped and also critical leadership skills. And so I'm thrilled that you're here to have this learning today. If you'll go to the next slide, Dr. Hilgert. So the webinar is brought to you by the Workplace Peace Institute Leadership Academy. Our Leadership Academy brings courses that are designed to optimize competencies in human behavior, communication skills, conflict resolution skills, as well as skills grounded in diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging, so that together we can create highly engaged workplaces where basic human needs and dignity needs are consistently honored. Here at Workplace Peace Institute, we are singularly focused on supporting leaders in creating workplace culture where all people thrive. And we believe for this to be a lived reality in our workplace, we truly need mindful leaders. So with that, I'm going to pass this over to you, Dr. Hilgert.
Thank you, Robin, and welcome everybody from my end as well. I'm dialing in from north of Europe, from Finland. And why am I here today to talk about this topic, mindfulness at workplace? It always comes up at the end to values. Values are the motor of our motivation. When we do things or when we are in environments that are aligned with our values, we feel energized, we feel motivated, enthusiastic, and we are thriving. On the opposite, if we are doing things or we are in environments that are against our values, we feel depleted, unmotivated, uninspired. We have a lack of energy, and it can also lead to depression and burnout. So I'm here today and tonight. For me in Finland, it's already 9 o'clock in the evening. So I'm here today because my passion is to teach mindfulness. And I went to med school because I wanted to understand the human being. And I did learn to understand the human being. But what mindfulness has taught me on top of that is to understand what it is like to be a human being. For me, mindfulness is like an instruction manual on how to be this species human being, like how to get along with our complicated mind, or how to get along with our complicated emotional life, or how to get along with other people. And if we look around the world, it seems that this species has problems to get along with other people. So for me, mindfulness represents values like freedom, connection, care, and authenticity. The second reason why I'm here today talking about this topic is because I also work as a medical doctor in occupational health care. And I'm regularly discussing with people who are either thrilled at their work or who get sick from their work. And I think we can do there a lot more better. And if there are two hopes that I have for this webinar today, is that I hope that I can get you contaminated a little bit with my enthusiasm about mindfulness. And secondly, what I really hope is that you learn something very concrete today, very practical, that you are able to take away with you in your life, in your work life, or bring into the world. So before we start to talk about mindfulness, I'd like to invite us to practice mindfulness. So if you like, you can follow me into this short mindfulness practice. And the invitation is to drop from our mode of doing and busyness into the mode of being. In the mode of being, we don't need to do anything. We don't need to attain anything. We don't need to optimize anything. What we are doing is widening the space of the present moment. So we are practicing to land into the present moment. So let's experience what that is like for you at the moment. How do you experience present moment right now? So you might want to bring your attention to what you are seeing around you. So noticing objects, shapes, colors, bringing your whole attention to what your eyes are seeing, some details that you maybe didn't notice earlier. And you might also want to close your eyes and bring your attention to your ears. And for a moment, listen to the sounds that are present. You might hear sounds from your environment, or sounds from inside your body. And as you are noticing sounds and what you are seeing, you might also notice how your mind easily wanders away, wanders in thoughts somewhere else than this moment. So notice that and bring your attention back to what you're seeing or what you're hearing. And then bringing the attention to your nose and noticing if there is any smell present at this moment. And then noticing if there is any taste present in your mouth, maybe from something that you have eaten before or you're just eating. And then let's bring the attention to our fifth sense, which is the sense of touch. So you might want to rub your hands together very gently and bring your full attention to the feeling of touch, how the palms of your hands are touching one another. How does that feel? Or you might want to feel the soles of your feet touching the floor. And maybe you want to move and wiggle your toes a little bit to feel the floor better. Or you might want to feel the parts of your body that are in connection with the support where you are sitting or lying. Feeling the air touching your skin. And then if you're curious, you can follow me into our sixth sense, which is interoception. It's the feelings that we feel inside our body. So curiously noticing, what do you feel inside your body when you bring your attention there? Very often we first feel tension or aches or pain. You might also feel your heart bouncing, or some feelings from your belly or digestive system. And then you can curiously notice if you can feel the physical sensations of your breath. And now remembering that in the mode of being, we don't need to change anything. We don't need to optimize. We don't need to do anything. So just let your breath be as it is and notice, where do you feel it in your body? Maybe on your breast or belly, or you feel the air flowing in and out. And then at the end of this practice, notice what from these senses was the easiest and most comfortable for you to relate to. Which of them helped you most to anchor your attention in the present moment? And mindfulness is about noticing when our mind is taking us away from this present moment into the future or the past, and then having tools to anchor our attention back to the present moment. Because the present moment is the only moment we can live, feel, and make decisions. And then I invite you to bring this mindfulness practice to its end. You can open your eyes and stretch a little bit. Take a couple of deeper breaths. And before we go to the theory of mindful leadership, I'd like to invite you to do some reflections with me. So you might want to close your eyes again, and I invite you to think about the workplace where you didn't feel good. Maybe you felt uninspired, no motivation, something else. So how was that for you working there? How did you feel? What was it that you didn't like, that was difficult for you, or uncomfortable, problematic? Was it the content of the work, the connections with others, the leadership style, or something else? And if you feel like, I invite you to write in the chat just one or two key words of what was it that was difficult for you? What was the biggest problem in that workplace? And if you don't feel like sharing, that's fine too. So I read here some of the answers. So I felt disrespected and undervalued. I felt stressed, tired, overwhelmed from the chronic lack of trust. Feeling unfocused, lack of direction. I felt always catching up, always behind. Yeah, thank you. And you can continue there if you want. And as a next step, I'd like to invite you to maybe want to close your eyes again. And this time, think about the workplace that you really liked, where you felt inspired, motivated, where you felt really good. How was that for you? How did you feel? What was it there that made you feel good or inspired? Was it the content, the connections with others, the leadership style, or something else? And again, if you feel called to, I invite you to share in the chat one or two key words of what was it that made this workplace a really good workplace for you. So I'm part of a team or work family. Others are there to help, and all topics are up for discussion. I felt alive, connected, safe, because our team trusted each other, which allowed us to do hard work together, challenge each other's ideas, and innovate together. Engaged and engaging, contributing at a high level. Okay, and please continue to share if you feel like it. And I'd also like to share from my part what I think is important in I call it mindful workplace, workplace where you feel good, inspired, motivated. So there are three things that I think are really important: psychological safety, transparency, and clarity. And psychological safety means that you're able to be yourself. You can express your opinions and ideas, and you don't have to be afraid of being ridiculed, judged. And you feel safe to take risks and show your vulnerability in that sense that you can make mistakes or fail, and it's okay. And you know that you can trust others, they are there to back you up or back each other up. Transparency and clarity are maybe part of the psychological safety, but I just wanted to bring them here up because it's really important for our mind to know what's going on. So transparency, clarity is that we know what's expected from us, we know where we stand, because our mind gets relaxed when it has transparency and clarity. And if our mind doesn't like not knowing. And one of these things of the instruction manual of being a human being is that when our mind does not know or is in unclarity, it is going to put a tremendous amount of energy into trying to understand. So it's creating all kinds of explanations, stories, fantasies, dramas about what might be going on. And yeah, in a mindful workplace, we don't want people to spend their time in that kind of fantasies. We want them to be present, right, and feel safe. In order to understand a bit more this psychological safety, I'd like to talk more about the nervous system. This is again part of the instruction manual of being a human being. So we have a nervous system, and our nervous system has three states where it can be. In the middle, there is this optimal arousal state, which is also called window of tolerance. In the optimal arousal state, in the window of tolerance, we feel, it shows up like in us, we feel that we are balanced, we feel good, we have energy to do the things that are important to us or that we need to do. We can communicate clearly, we can engage with others, we can have stress, but we have confidence that we can manage that. So it's a general sense of being in balance and feeling good. Hyperarousal is a state of our nervous system which shows up in us human beings as being nervous, restless, the mind is restless, the body is restless, nervousness, difficulty to stay still or not to do anything, difficulty to relax, maybe anxiety, fear, panic attack, sleep disturbances, irritability, getting easily frustrated, getting easily angry, or losing the temper. So that's the hyperarousal state of our nervous system. And down here is the hypoarousal state, which is the opposite. It's a state where our nervous system is shutting down, getting frozen, and it shows up in us human beings as we feel tired, exhausted, brain foggy, difficulty to concentrate, difficulty to initiate action, low mood, depression, feeling numb, so not feeling anything, or feeling dissociated, so feeling that I'm not in my body at all. So these are the 3 different states where we can physiologically be. So to simplify our life is like this red curve there. So we are oscillating from one of these states to another. And now as the first practice of self-awareness, what's going inside the body, I'd like you to, just for yourself, and you don't need to share it in the chat, you can if you want, but I'd like for you to analyze a little bit, how is it for you? How present are these 3 states, or which of these 3 states are present for you? And let's take not just today, but like 2, 3, 4 weeks, the last weeks. How much of the time have you been in hyperarousal, in the window of tolerance, the optimal arousal zone, or in hypoarousal? Has it been like 20, 60, 20, or 80, 20, 0, or something else? And this window of tolerance, this optimal arousal state, it's a living space. So it can be narrower or it can be wider. What is narrowing our window of tolerance is chronic stress and insomnia. And what is, like, we human beings are also not equal from the birth, because some of us are born with a much more wider window of tolerance, and some of us are born with a narrow window of tolerance. So some of us have it much easier to go through this human life than others. And for instance, 20% of us are genetically highly sensitive. And highly sensitive people, they feel the environment, feel other people's emotions, get easily overwhelmed from stimuli, from sound. And highly sensitive people, they start their lives with a much narrower window of tolerance than other people, the rest, the 80%. And there is also another factor, a big factor, which is chronic toxic stress in the childhood. So if there's been chronic stress in the family, abuse, neglect, mental health problems, addictions. So these are all chronic stress factors for children. So children who have had chronic toxic stress, the stress system has developed in a way that is much more, the window of tolerance much more narrower, and they need to do a lot more work with themselves to stay in their window of tolerance. So this is something that it's important to keep in mind when we deal with other people. And let's see a bit more in detail again, the same thing. Why is this important? It's important because when we stay in our window of tolerance, we are in the social engagement mode. It's when we feel a sense of safety, okay? And both hyperarousal and hypoarousal are stress states. So we need the hyperarousal state. If there is a real sense of threat, we need to mobilize all our energy to fight or flight. For instance, when we are walking on a savanna and there comes a lion, so we need to either kill the lion or run away as fast as possible. So we need that stress system to mobilize all our energy. Now, the problem is in today's world, we don't have lions walking around. But we have a lot of other stress factors, which are often psychological and emotional, and with other people. But The physiological reaction is exactly the same. And many of us are chronically hyper-aroused. And when we are chronically hyper-aroused, at one point, we have mobilized all our energies and we fall into the collapse, helplessness, the hypoarousal. So that's the state, for instance, when we are in burnout. So this is why a psychological safety at workplace is important, because it keeps people in their window of tolerance. And today, we are not living anymore in the 19th century industrial revolution time, where the logic was that the more you put in, the more you get out. Okay. In today's world, our most precious working tool is our brain. And we are being paid for being creative and solving problems. So who do you want to pay for? Do you want to pay for an employee whose mind is stressed, exhausted, and scattered? Or an employee whose mind is clear, focused, and concentrated? And only when we are in our window of tolerance are we in this non-stressed state, clear, focused, concentrated. So we could think of mindful leadership as a way to, like, how do we practice self-leadership so that we stay as much as possible in our window of tolerance, and that we help others to stay in their window of tolerance, in their optimal physiological state. So mindful leadership is not about some woo-woo stuff or some soft stuff that is not important. It's really about how do we stay in focus, clarity, in connection, and be productive. Mindful leadership represents a shift from traditional authoritative styles to a more conscious and reflective approach. It can lead to a more balanced, effective, and humane way of guiding teams and organizations, making decisions that consider the well-being of all involved. And this is Google's definition of mindful leadership, which is pretty good. And let's see what other descriptions there are. First of all, the traditional leadership, is it enough? Traditional leadership is taking the MBA, fixing the bottom line, excelling the Excel sheets, having a vision and a strategy, and executing on that. And most leadership training programs start with skills like strategy, people management, and finance. So is it enough? And we here are saying that it's not enough, that we need to become mindful leaders. Mindful leaders understand the human condition, how the human being works. Mindful leaders have self-awareness. They understand their mind, emotions, their conditioning, and their reactions and behavior. Leadership starts with understanding the mind. Okay, what the hell is that? Oh, just my mind. So I think we can all relate to that picture, right? And that's why I need mindfulness. The foundation of mindful leadership is to understand yourself. By understanding how your mind works, can you lead yourself effectively? And only when you understand yourself and can lead yourself, can you understand other people and lead them and lead organizations. The definition of mindful leader, this is from Outi Hilgert in the book, The Mind of the Leader. A mindful leader can lead themselves, their people, and their organizations to unlock intrinsic motivation, create real people-centered cultures, and ultimately deliver extraordinary results. Let's look at this a bit more in detail. And the next slides are from Outi Hilgert's other book, which is Compassionate Leadership, which I highly recommend. It's an excellent book if you're interested on this topic. And in this book, he is revealing his study data on different leadership styles. So this study comprised of qualitative interviews of 350 executives, CEOs, CHROs, quantitative data from 15,000 leaders, 150,000 employees in over 5,000 companies in over 100 countries, and in collaboration with Harvard Business Review and 4 leading business schools. And let's see if I put my picture here. So in this study, they created a matrix called WISE Compassion Matrix. So let's stay here for a moment. This is really important and interesting. So in this matrix, on the y-axis, there is compassion and care on top, and at the bottom, indifference. And compassion is defined as the intention to be of benefit to others. On the x-axis, on the right, there is wisdom and courage, and on the left, ignorance. And wisdom, courage is defined as seeing reality clearly and acting appropriately, having good judgment in how to run a business in a purposeful and sustainable way, and having the courage to be candid and transparent with other people and do the things that need to be done. So they classified leaders in 3 clusters. Leaders that are in this quadrant 1, caring, avoidant leaders, are high in compassion and care, but low in wisdom and courage. So these leaders are letting empathy or fear be a barrier to action. In quadrant 2 are the wise, compassionate leaders. They are high both on compassion and care and wisdom and courage. Wise, compassionate leaders are courageously doing hard things in a human way. In quadrant 3 are ineffective, indifferent leaders that are low both on compassion and care and wisdom and courage. So they lack care and courage when doing hard things. And quadrant 4 is uncaring execution style. These managers or leaders are high in wisdom and courage, but low on compassion and care. So they are putting results before people's well-being. And now becomes really, the next slide is the most interesting, I think, in this whole presentation tonight. And it's so cool. So they were analyzing these 3 groups, so 1, 2, and 4, and seeing what are the outcomes of these leaders. So let's see that. So, so employees were rating their leaders. So the first column is they are high on compassion. So this is this caring avoidance. The second one, employees rating leaders high on wisdom. So that was the quadrant 4, uncaring execution. And the third one is employees rating leaders high on both. So both on compassion and wisdom, so the wise, compassionate leaders. So we can see that the employee experience on all parameters is multiplied when with leaders that are high on both wisdom and compassion. So employee experience of job satisfaction, organizational commitment, job performance, decreased burnout, leader satisfaction, and job engagement are way higher. So this is really cool because very often I hear people saying, yeah, all these mindfulness and these soft things, you know, that just like nonsense because we need to make money and be effective. But actually, this shows that we need both. We need wisdom and courage, and we need also compassion. And there is another study that is showing the same thing. And this is a study from Google. Google had an Aristotle project, a study conducted to identify the key factors that make a successful team. And while researchers originally thought that diversity or demographics would have the biggest impact, they were surprised of their findings. After analyzing vast amount of data, the researchers discovered that psychological safety was the most important factor for team success. Teams high on psychological safety had increased innovation, better decision-making, higher employee engagement. Teams low on psychological safety had low morale, decreased collaboration, higher rates of employee turnover. Teams low on psychological safety are operating out of fear and in survival mode. By prioritizing psychological safety, leaders can create an environment that fosters trust, collaboration, and creativity, leading to improved team performance. So now that we have seen why it's important to cultivate mindfulness in the workplace, the rest of this presentation, I will talk more about, the journey to become a mindful leader. And I guess already the fact that you are here in this webinar shows that you are already on your journey of a mindful leader, because you're interested about the topic. So what are the skills that mindful leaders need? What are skills that we can teach and learn that we are not learning in other schools, like traditional business schools or maybe medical school either? So in mindful leader courses that I train, there are 3 pillars that are important for the training. First pillar is mindfulness, second is emotional balance, and third is compassion. And let's have a brief look at each of them, what they consist of. So is your mind full or are you mindful? So I think the first picture, we all know that one. Okay. So mindfulness training is, like we did in the very beginning, is training to bring our attention to the present moment and get distance from our thoughts. We are practicing being in the present moment and paying attention in the present moment with a calm, focused, and clear mind. And again, I think you can hear here that this is what we are actually cultivating and practicing here, is how to be in this window of tolerance, this optimal arousal state, where we have more chance that our mind is calm, focused, and clear. Because if we are in the hyper arousal or hypoarousal, we can just forget it. It's not physiologically possible. So mindfulness training is about training focused attention and calmness. And yes, we can train this. Mindfulness training is also a training to understand the mind and understand that our mind is thinking all the time. our mind is bringing us all the time away from the present moment to the past and future. Understanding how biased our mind is, it has a negativity bias. So it's also questioning, can I believe my thoughts, or even reflecting? And in many mindfulness trainings, we actually conclude that many of our thoughts are erroneous interpretations of reality. And if we look around, most people, they fully believe all their thoughts. And that's what's causing a lot of problems in this world. So mindfulness training helps us to see clearly. What am I really seeing? How is my mind interpreting it? Part of mindfulness training is also mindful listening. It's the ability to listen to others. What are they really saying? Learning from others, better communication, better conflict management. And you might say, yeah, listening. Okay, I know how to listen. But really, you can, after this webinar, take this as one mindfulness practice. Really listen. It's not that easy because our mind, how it works, it's already thinking, what am I going to answer? Oh, I don't know what to say. Oh, this is bullshit what the one is saying. Like, I have a much better idea, or I have no idea what we are talking about. How do I make that the other doesn't think I'm completely stupid? So our mind is already thinking, and it's not that easy to 100% just listen. So examples of mindfulness in work life is, do I really see clearly what's going on? Am I really listening? Is this true or my interpretation? So what's happening here? Am I biased? The second pillar is emotional intelligence training. And why is emotional intelligence training important? It's so important because emotions drive our behavior. Emotions are contagious. We know it. When somebody is angry in front of us, it's very difficult to stay in our window of tolerance. We also notice emotions immediately when we go to a space or a room. We notice what the atmosphere is. And other people also, they feel our emotions even if we don't show them. And people also feel if my emotions and words are in alignment. So is there congruence? And if there is not, it's creating in our brain and our mind psychological unsafety. The third pillar of mindful leader training is compassion training. And in this context, compassion is defined as the intention to be of benefit to others. So themes that we talk about in compassion training are, for instance, what's the difference between empathy and compassion, how to avoid empathy fatigue, how to balance self-compassion and compassion to others. And compassion is an important part of mindful leadership and all businesses. Because if we take care of our people, they take care of our customers, and the business will take care of itself. Arne Sorenson, President and CEO of Marriott International, has said. Paul Dougherty, Chief Technical Officer, Accenture, has said, humans need and want human interaction. All businesses are technology businesses, and leaders need to understand that. But ultimately, it's our ability to cultivate meaningful human connections that allows a business to thrive. So a global movement is already taking place. People are not motivated by being a number on a performance rating scale. Today's workforce is looking for meaning, human connectedness, true happiness, and a desire to contribute positively to the world. How can we create more human leadership and people-centered cultures where employees and leaders are more fulfilled and more fully engaged? Okay, so as we are in this webinar, we know that the answer is no, we need to become mindful leaders. And being a mindful leader is not about doing the right things. It's about who you are being. It's about aspirations, intention, authenticity. It's about congruence, acting and speaking in alignment. Because people hear who you are being, not what you're saying. And people remember how you made them feel, not what you said. So to finish up the presentation, to conclude, so mindful leadership is about unlearning management and relearning being human. It's about cultivating presence and calmness, communicating with clarity and compassion, and acting with caring candor. And my biggest hope was that you really bring something concrete back from this webinar already tomorrow or this afternoon, wherever you are in the world. So one wonderful way to practice mindfulness is mindful meetings. It starts with being mindful of who to invite. And being also very clear in your communication of why you invite somebody and why you don't invite somebody else. So this is again part of clarity and transparency. Having a clear intention, clear agenda, maybe starting with 1 minute of silence in order to bring people from their hyper arousal, from this mode of doing and busyness, into their window of tolerance, into their mode of being and present moment. Having full focus, no phones, no laptops, practicing mindful presence and mindful listening. So with that, I welcome you to the journey of being and becoming mindful leaders, and I'm giving up to Robin to finish up our presentation here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Hilgert. You might really enjoy taking the 6-hour self-paced course, The Mindful Leader, where Dr. Hilgert goes into much, much greater detail about the science of mindfulness, offers mindfulness practices, and really offers a lot of skills development around deepening your own competencies in being a compassionate leader. Next slide. To support that, you might also appreciate the Social and Emotional Intelligence course that's taught by Dr. Dara Rossi. And one more slide, please. One of the things we're just incredibly committed to here at the Workplace Peace Institute is supporting leaders in becoming more human humans. Dr. Hilgert went to medical school to learn more about what it means to be human. Being human is complicated, it is complex. We are shockingly not that great at it. And I've identified some really core competencies that I think we all would benefit from as leaders. So I want to invite you to explore our website to learn about more of those. I've dropped into the chat a link to our next webinar, which is going to be about compassionate communication. And I'm going to end the recording here and open up a Q&A for those who may have some questions for Dr. Hilgert.